Hi, my name is Naeem Rawat, and I'm a sophomore, and it's my first year being a part of the Life Design Lab at Morrison High School. When I was around halfway through my freshman year, the whole school except for seniors were expected to start choosing their electives for the next school year. At that time, I was so unaware of all the different options and didn't know which classes I wanted to take. When I eventually met with my guidance counselor to choose them, she told me about a class called Life Design and how it was required for students in the STEM Academy. I told her that I was okay with taking it next year. From just the name, I thought this class was going to be like my STEM class. I thought we were going to do projects and learn new skills, but maybe slightly less technical. But I generally had an open mind and particularly enjoyed classes like those. Sophomore year eventually came before I knew it, and I found myself in Mr. Daly's class, and was so completely unaware of what this class was going to be about. Mr. Daly started giving us an overview, and from that moment, I knew this class wasn't going to be like the rest of them. And to be honest, I felt a little bit intimidated because I thought this class would be stressful and a burden and not something I would enjoy. But thinking about it now, I was wrong. As we started to settle in the school year, we had to start thinking about what we wanted to do for our projects. During those few weeks, I was super indecisive and stressed out because I knew I didn't have a ton of time to figure it out. My first idea. A few people before had written a book, and I liked that idea, but I would need to figure out what that book would be about. I could have written about anything that was school appropriate, and there were a bunch of things that included, but there were only a few things I would actually be passionate writing about. But I felt like this would have been too difficult and time consuming. Although I would have felt very motivated in the beginning, I knew very quickly that motivation would decline and I would just get distracted and most likely wouldn't have been very successful. My second idea. As I was continuing to look for more ideas, two of my friends had decided to do a project that was involving the gym, and they were exploring different splits, supplements, and diets. I was also considering doing something like that, but I didn't want to make it seem like I was doing it just because my friends were. I also saw this more of something I would have enjoyed and not something that would have really pushed me out of my comfort zone. My third and final idea. I heard that some of my friends were building different things for the project. I immediately liked that idea, but was unsure what I was going to build. I was still unsure if I wanted to do a project like this, but I came up with a great idea. What if I combined certain aspects of the gym into my project, and I decided to make different weight racks to organize my home gym. Organizing my home gym was something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I found this class a perfect opportunity to do so. I was super excited, so I conferenced with Mr. Daly, and I began work immediately. I found different designs for the different things I wanted to do, and I started building that I wanted to build, and I started designing them on Onshape, which I had learned to use last year in my STEM class. I designed a plate rack and then a dumbbell rack, but the dumbbell rack may have been too hard to do now that I'm realizing it today. I researched different materials I wanted to use and where I could find them, and luckily most of the stuff was available at Lowe's and Home Depot, and I had a lot of the tools I needed at home. By feedback night, I had my designs done and 3D printed a miniature model to show to people what it would look like in real life. People were impressed and excited to see how it would turn out. I showed more people, changed my design a little bit, and I thought I was in a good position. By the time of critique night, I had already started building it and I was done with the base of the plate rack. I thought I had plenty of time, but I didn't, and I wasn't making as much progress as I should have. The plan was to still make a dumbbell rack in addition to the plate rack. But then my dad suggested changing the design to combine the two, since the dumbbell rack itself would have been too hard to make ourselves. The plan was to keep the plate rack the same, but then attach two pieces of wood on the side to make a pyramid dumbbell rack. I thought this was a great idea, and by the time of exhibition night, I was sharing it with everyone and explaining how I was going to do it. I also had finished drilling the holes and cutting the metal pipe that I was going to use to hold the weights. For around a month, that was the plan I was going to stick with, but I hadn't really done anything, and I kind of was fooling around in class with my friends. Spring break came at the end of March, and my family decided to go on a vacation for 5 days, so I couldn't really do anything that time. When I came back, I decided to take initiative and reminded my dad that we had to work more on this project. By the weekend before we were supposed to get back to school, I had attached the metal pipe to the wood, and when school started, I attached that to the base I had made in the beginning, and the plate rack was complete. We were now brainstorming on how to build the pyramid dumbbell rack. My dad then suggested that we should change the design again because he was unsure about the strength of the pieces of wood and if they would be able to hold the dumbbells. Instead, we were going to create a section at the bottom of the plate rack to lay the dumbbells flat, sort of like our original design with the dumbbell rack. And we were going to cut these triangular notches inside so the dumbbells didn't roll off, but we later realized that that was unnecessary because we had hex dumbbells instead of round dumbbells, so they wouldn't roll off anyways. What I have learned from this project. This project has made me realize that time management is key. Even though I was able to finish my project, using my time more effectively and not procrastinating would have made the process and experience easier and less stressful, and would have also helped me increase the quality of the project since I had to sort of rush at the end. I also learned another very important skill, which is identifying a problem, coming up with a solution, and learning how to execute that solution. This skill is super important for any problem you come across and is applicable to real life situations. I also learned a lot of other things that will help me in the future. Since my project was dependent on others, I learned that it is important to remind them about what has to be done. Everybody has so much going on in their lives, and they may not remember something you asked them to do. I learned how to be flexible. In the future, you're going to be working on things with different people, and it is important to be the person who is flexible and willing to accommodate your time, especially when other people aren't willing to do so. I learned how to budget. By finding the cheapest prices for different things I needed, and making sure that the cost for me to make it wouldn't exceed the price of one I could just buy. I also learned the design process. I started out with an original design and improved as I got feedback from others and came across challenges as I started to build. I can apply this not only to designing and building projects, but also for other things that I'm going to have to do in the real world. Finally, I discovered a new hobby. I really enjoyed this project because of the hands-on aspect, and it allowed me to express my creativity. I plan on continuing this project or doing other projects where I have to build things in the future, and I will definitely run into more challenges from it, but this will only help improve my critical thinking and problem-solving skills. In the end, I have so far been really happy with the outcome of this project, and it will be very useful in the future. And overall, I think it was a good challenge it was good to challenge myself and do something that was a little out of my comfort zone. Thank you.